Welcome. My name is Stacy Chitty, and I'd like to thank you for taking part in today's Blue Vault webinar. Today, we're hosting Wealth Forge Securities and Wealth Forge executives Michael Roman and Jim Raper. We'll be addressing the product sponsor marketplace and how Wealth Forge plays a unique role in this market. Before we get started, please note that the views expressed during the webinar are not necessarily the views of Blue Vault, are not guaranteed to be accurate, and should not be used to make investment decisions. This information is intended only for institutional, broker-dealer, or registered investment advisor use. This information is prohibited for use by the general public. We're going to be learning a lot more about Wealth Forge today, what they do, and their unique position in the alts marketplace. So let me kick off our discussion today by introducing our esteemed guests. Jim Raper is the Chief Compliance Officer of Wealth Forge. During his 30 years of experience, Jim has developed a refined understanding of the operational and financial attributes of successful companies. Jim relies on his expert knowledge about the regulatory environment to help guide both Wealth Forge and its clients through the complexities of raising capital. Michael Roman is the Managing Director, Managing Broker-Dealer Services at Wealth Forge. With more than 20 years of experience working for alts sponsors, he has created, marketed, and distributed investment products to both independent broker-dealers and registered investment advisory firms. He uses this experience to guide and advise product sponsors on the Wealth Forge platform. So Jim and Michael, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to learning more about Wealth Forge over the next hour.
Very good. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy.
Absolutely. So maybe just a tad bit more about your bios, since I was only able to read just a sentence or two there. But why don't you guys take like a minute each? Tell us a little bit more about your role at Wealth Forge, and maybe also where you came from, where you've been, how long you've been in the industry, other than what I just stated as the obvious above. Jim, we'll go to you first.
All right, sounds good. I got here through the M&A transaction advisory space. I've been in the industry about 15 years. I've been at Wealth Forge about 10 of those, and responsible for compliance since I showed up back in April of 2014. It's been a journey.
Yeah, all compliance officers say the same thing, don't they? It's been a journey, or they may say worse than that, but.
Oh no, this has been fantastic.
Fantastic.
We're all in it together, and we think we deliver a differentiated approach to the way this business gets done, and we're happy to have a chance to talk about it.
I'll say one good thing about Jim. Being a compliance officer, you typically expect a compliance answer. So he comes across with a way to formulate it so that it can be taken by a salesperson and understand that you can't go too far, but here's what we can do. We can make things work. So he's got a compliance brain, but he can put it into a sales world.
Well, there you go. That's what we call kind of an innate ability, Jim. Congratulations to you. Over the course of the 25 or so years that I've been in this industry, I've worked with several, and I've been fortunate that they've all been fantastic people. But I've heard some tough stories. But anyway, well, Michael, Let's go to you. Give us a little bit more of your background and tell us what you're doing at Wealth Forge.
Okay. Well, I've been in the industry about 25 years. Started off a little stint in retail, a little stint in the wirehouse world, working for the managed money divisions of the consulting group, and did other things there. Worked my way into wholesaling. So fast forward to about 2002, I jumped into the alternative investment space, selling non-traded REITs. I've worked for several sponsors over the last several years, created product, ran distribution teams, raised capital, did a little bit of everything you can do in the alt space. And I've been at Wealth Forge about 3.5 years now. And so I take my knowledge, my contacts, everything that goes on in the industry, and I work with sponsors on a day in and day out basis on what they need, how they can be successful, what works, what doesn't work, a little bit of everything, help with connections, anything I can do to help make the managing broker dealer clients we have successful. Because I mean, as a managing broker dealer, we make money when they raise money. So we want everybody to be successful and be the best they can.
There you go. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jim. Let's get started. Wealth Forge was founded upon the idea that alternative capital markets are opaque, that they're inefficient, that they're rife with barriers, and that needed to change. So if you would tell us a little bit about Wealth Forge today and then what you do as a managing broker dealer. And Michael, we'll start with you.
Well, okay. I was going to give that one to Jim, but no, I'll take it. So Wealth Forge is a managing broker dealer. I mean, we have 18 sponsors currently. We did a little over $1.4 billion in revenue last year. We work directly hand in hand with the sponsors that we bring on, like I said earlier, to make sure that they are successful, to set them up for success, whether it be from our working with our due diligence group that reviews all of their material to make sure that it is what the space is looking for, because really you only get one first impression when you take your product to the street.
That's
and
right.
You're talking to all these due diligence officers, and if it's something that they have not seen that is a little bit different, they might just take a pass on you. And if they do, it might be 6 months or a year or never before you can get back in there. So we want to make sure that the sponsors that are coming over to work with us, they have the ability for success right off the bat with everything that the due diligence officers are going to be looking for, what the financial advisors that are going to be selling these products are going to be looking for, so that way they can be successful quicker.
You know, Michael, you and I could probably get together and write a book, but what you just said is so true. It's hard enough as it is. The last thing you want to do is make a mistake. Because then you just double or triple your efforts, and it takes so long to try to get back in there. So point number one, taken well here, have your ducks in a row and be prepared as you first launch, as you first start your outreach, because if you don't and you say the wrong thing or you react the wrong way or whatever it is, it'll come back to bite you. So Jim, what would you add to what Michael said?
So I think Michael covered a lot of bases there, but I mean, you know, a definition of success for a sponsor is, can I produce a successful product that's attractive to the market as it exists today? And can I build a syndicate that's going to help me distribute enough of my product that I can fulfill my business objectives? So, you know, as a managing broker dealer, our job is to manage that syndicate. And with many of our clients, they are seeking distribution through independent broker dealers and registered investment advisors early in the evolution of their product mix. And those guys are seasoned. They know what to expect out of an offering. They can pull it apart. They can look at the pieces. They can evaluate the attributes. They can compare it to what else is available in the market. They can say, hey, is this a good deal or not? So the consultative approach that Michael brings to the party when he first engages those sponsors is very helpful. Now, you talk about only one opportunity to make a first impression. There's a lot of things you can do wrong in an offering that's going to take it to that seasoned distribution network, and they're going to say, nope, not coming through my diligence department. Things like advertising, things like structure, things like compensation, all the things that a compliance guy stays awake at night thinking about. And, you know, Mike's got enough experience that he can say, hey, you don't want to do that, and here's why. And then when Michael gets stuck, he says, hey, Jim, I don't think this is a good idea. What do you think? And then, you know, we get on the phone, we talk, and we work it out. And you know, most of my career was a consultant, so I'm looking for ways to get stuff done. And so the idea of being on the phone with a sponsor and being able to be helpful as they bring their product to market with an understanding that's built. I mean, our library of offerings, you know, we've done 1,300 offerings. We've processed 30,000 investors. We've raised $6 billion in capital. I mean, that's a fair amount of experience in the alt space to bring to bear when, look, we think this is a good idea. Let's go. And you got to get over all those hurdles.
Yeah, it's important, and you know, to a large degree, you guys have an advantage over other distribution groups because you've seen so many different product types, you've seen so many different strategies, you've seen so many different prospectuses and PPMs that just makes your worldview on all of this a little broader, and I guess it gives you some advantages
Mhm.
and maybe even to some other, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but some other managing broker dealers, because it sounds like you have more relationships and you've done this longer. Obviously, that's going to provide you with a little advantage there. Would you agree with that, Jim?
I would, but everybody that knocks on our door is not going to be a great fit for us. I mean, you talked about the needs of the distribution. Well, Wealth Forge provides that structure. We provide a differentiated service for our sponsors so they can have some insight into the way the investors are processed. And we just think we do a very clean job of that. But Donna Arliss, who runs our operations group and the finance side of the business, we strive to be paying out commissions as fast as we can in the independent broker dealer network. And we think that's better for our sponsors and better for the distribution network, just because there's no latency in the way the money flows. Right? The sponsor gets it quickly, we settle it quickly, and then we pay commissions quickly. We think that's a benefit.
And let's say, Jim, you were before Michael at Wealth Forge, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Jim, let me just ask you to take a step back. When was it that Wealth Forge was founded? Who founded the company? How many employees was there originally? And any stories to give us some perspective here, Jim?
So let me keep it as short as I can. Well, Wealth Forge was founded in the early aughts, mid-aughts, I guess, by two fellows in a college dorm. One of the founders, his father says, recently exited the family business, had some money that he needed to spend, was having a terrible time finding a place to make the investment. And then once the investment was decided, having a terrible time having somebody take his money. And he talks to his son, who's a finance major at the University of Richmond, says there's got to be a better way to do this. And so both the founders put their heads together and say, well, we're going to need some advice. So they got together with a professor there at the university, and they hatched a plan. And I believe it's a true statement. I'm the compliance guy. I should only say true things. But I think it's a true statement that at the time, those two guys were the youngest people that had ever been certified at the principal level and been awarded a license to be a broker dealer. And we've built on that. Wealth Forge has probably gone through 2 or 3 evolutions of who it wants to be since then. But yeah, it started long ago with a little bit of a vision about how to take this alts business and just make it easier to get done.
That's interesting. Michael, anything to add to that?
No, I would just say, I mean, that I've been here for 3.5 years, and the amount of growth that we've experienced just in the 3.5 years has been very strong. Whether it just has to do with the market itself, but I always have to kind of go back to say that it has a lot more to do with our team. People come to Wealth Forge. We have a team. We have a team approach. We have 13 people on the broker dealer side. We've seen and touched about every kind of different offering that can be in the space. So it's not a question of, do we know how to work with a public offering or a private or Reg A or Reg D or whatever it may be, 506B, 506C. We understand them all. We know what to do and how to do it. We have people that are here all day long, people that back up people. So when you come to Wealth Forge, you get a team approach that is seasoned and knows what to do regardless of what kind of offering it is. And Jim mentioned earlier, I mean, about paying out commissions. If you keep the broker dealers happy, you pay them commissions, you do things right with your marketing material, goes back to not messing up with your first impression and things like that. You get to keep that broker dealer syndicate a lot longer. They're a lot happier. And when they're happier with you, they tend to send you a little more money.
The term managing broker dealer, is that just a kind of a nomenclature in our industry, or is that a legal technical term, the part managing? For example, is it different than, do you call a broker dealer that's in-house something different than a managing broker dealer? Just curious. I never thought of that before, but you guys are experts.
I'll take that. I mean, so an in-house broker dealer that's responsible for the syndicate that sells the sponsor's product, depending on the services that they provide to the sponsor, that likely is a managing broker dealer. Often a managing broker dealer is referred to as a dealer manager. And in fact, his primary role is to manage a group that is handling the retail distribution of a sponsor's product. So we are the intermediary between the sponsor and his workforce, the salesmen that are actually representing his product to the retail investor.
Okay, so when it's referred to as a dealer manager, that's not someone getting their words backwards. That's technically accurate. It is a dealer manager or it's a managing broker dealer. It's very interesting. I never thought about that, Jim. Thank you for clarifying that for us.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so who needs a managing broker dealer, and why do they need a managing broker dealer? I'll throw that out to whoever wants to tackle it first.
Michael, I'll grab it. You can clean it up when I leave some pieces behind. But
Go ahead.
so I think, in my opinion, right, this is just Jim Raper's opinion, and what we carry to market is that the sponsors that seek to distribute their product through the independent broker dealer channel really ought to have a managing broker dealer. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is many worthy distribution partners, retail broker dealers, they're not going to pick up the product unless there's a managing broker dealer that's first in line for the diligence, the advertising, the regulatory reporting, all the things to run interference for the things that they may not quite do so well inside their retail operations. And so that's sort of first, it's cost doing business. You need to have a managing broker dealer to have access to that channel.
Yeah.
Right? And then for the sponsors, on the sponsor side, what's managing broker dealer doing for the sponsor? I mean, sometimes managing broker dealers maybe wind up with a little bit of, why do I need one of those? And it's far more than an administrative task. Again, the goal is to have a productive distribution network. Well, the distribution network needs marketing materials. And if they're going to earn a commission, the marketing materials have to be compliant. Well, the managing broker dealer's job is to make sure that the only materials that are distributed for that sponsor are compliant materials. Wealth Forge probably looks at, 2,500 or so pieces of advertising on an annual basis with the number of sponsors that we deal with, the number of products that they take to market. And then you multiply that by the number of years that we've been doing this, that's 10 years. Well, that's 20,000 pieces of advertising. Then we have a very good relationship with Fenner's advertising department. We make voluntary submissions so that we can build our library of fact base. And when we asked you last time, this is what the answer was. We're just confirming to make sure that's still the same answer. And that's got to give some comfort to the syndicate, knowing that they're working with compliant materials to get started.
Well, Jim, it gives comfort, but let me clarify something, because I may have been misguided in this. If you're raising money, at least whether there's a minimum number of investors, but if you're raising money, do you not have to have a broker dealer in place to do that?
I'm the compliance guy. Let me give you my answer again.
Okay.
The answer is no. You don't have to have a managing broker dealer.
Oh, okay.
But you ought to have a managing broker dealer for the two reasons that I just listed. And the second part of that is, as a sponsor, why in the world do you want to be struggling with the morass of regulatory compliance obligations that you have as a sponsor? Wouldn't it make sense to give that to somebody that does that for their business? That's all they do, right?
I would be scared to death to do that without a managing broker dealer or broker dealer to oversee those things. That would scare me. I would never even venture out of that gate. Michael, what do you say?
Let me add to that. I fixed it because I get this question every week, multiple times a week. It's like, do I need a managing broker dealer, and why? Well, if you're going to pay commission out to the broker dealer space, or if you're going to have a wholesaler that's going to receive commission, it's called transaction-based compensation. If any of that goes on, then you probably need a managing broker dealer, because that has to flow through a broker dealer to another broker dealer to receive that compensation. So anytime that's involved, you definitely need one. And to make the broker dealers in our space, the independent broker dealers in our space, more comfortable, and to make sure, yes, they want one in the middle. They don't want somebody that's out flying blind, no broker dealer, no compliance, no nothing. They're just making it up as they go, shooting from their hip. They don't like that. RIAs, sometimes they don't know what you have to have and don't have. There's a lot of sponsors that are raising capital, that are paying wholesalers, paying them commissions, that are only saying, oh, we're only raising in the RIA space. And we're not paying them a true commission, we're paying them a discretionary bonus. Yeah, you can do that, and you can get by for a while, but if FINRA does come knocking on your door, and I'll use one of Jim's line, if there's basically an algebraic equation here that can say you raised X dollars and you received Y compensation for that, you're in violation. So you need multiple things. You can be a principal of the company and raise capital and not receive a commission. You get bonuses based on acquisitions or whatever it may be. But if you're basically, your job is to be a wholesaler or a salesperson for that company, and you're receiving commission, or you're trying to go through the broker-dealer channel and you're paying them out commission, you need a broker-dealer, a managing broker-dealer in the middle, or you need to have your own.
Okay, so yeah, I think we've established you need it. I've got a question for you because this goes all the way back to the 90s. Michael, you might can relate. Maybe you had these discussions, but at a prior firm I was at, there was some discussion about whether or not a salesperson need to be licensed to earn a commission. And some people said yes, some people said no. Of course, the attorney said, well, you probably need to, that kind of thing. So what's the answer on that, Jim or Michael? Do you have to be licensed to take a commission or not?
100%. It's not even gray.
Okay, so not just for the advisor, but also for the wholesaler. Okay,
Correct.
let me get it a little thicker here. What if you're an internal wholesaler at the sales desk and you get paid a bonus on quarterly, I don't know, sales? You got to have a license, or
Yes.
should you? You do.
Yes.
Okay, got to have a license. All right.
So it's back to the algebra equation, Stacy. I mean, in this case, it's multiplied by 1 or 0, right? And so you don't get a bonus if you didn't do X, but you do get a bonus if you did Y. Well,
Okay.
you need to be registered.
Thank you for clearing that up for me and for our guests on today's webinar. So let's talk about your ideal client. What is your ideal client at WealthForge?
I will take that one. So ideal client, I mean, it's an alternative investment sponsor. I mean, whether it's let's say a serial issuer such as a DST sponsor that's going to have multiple different offerings out in a year, we've got Reg Ds, whether they're raising capital for 1 year, 2 years, whether it's a 506B, 506C. We have evergreen funds, open-ended funds that pretty much go on forever. So we've got a little bit of everything in terms of what could be done and who do we work with. But we look for somebody that's got a demonstrated track record, somebody that's got a history, somebody that has performance. When they're coming into the space, I recommend that they get a third-party due diligence report, because the broker dealers aren't going to really touch them without them. And also, when we have a third-party due diligence report, makes us and gives us that extra layer of comfort. We also do our own diligence on the sponsor level and on the product itself. So we're doing that on top of getting the third-party due diligence. But we want a sponsor that is coming to the space. We can do different levels of, I would say, managing broker-dealer service. We can do a full-blown managing broker-dealer where we do everything soup to nuts, or we can also kind of farm out and do kind of a services model where we can work on just paying commissions, or we can just do operations or certain different aspects for some of the sponsors. And typically, we're looking for a sponsor that's going to raise 100 million plus in our space. And so somebody that wants to be here, somebody that wants to be in this offering and then come out with their next offering. The broker dealers don't necessarily want somebody that's going to be one and done. And we want to work with somebody that we can partner with for the long time, somebody that wants to be around and do this offering and then the next and the next and the next. And one of the other things that I feel strongly about also is, and I think we kind of touched on this just a little bit, is a sponsor that has their own sales team. If you're going to get into this space, the independent broker dealer and the RIA channel, it's not cheap. It's very difficult, especially for the first, let's call it 12 to 24 months. So when you have somebody that carries your message day in and day out and works with you, as opposed to, oh, I want to come into the space, but I want to do it cheaply. I need to farm certain aspects out. I understand it's expensive, but you get more success quicker when you have your own dedicated sales team that is helping you raise capital, raising capital for you on a day in and day out basis. WealthForge, we don't raise capital. Everybody that we work with has their own sales team, or we do have a couple that work with third-party distributors. But I say that at the end of the day, you get the best result for having your own dedicated sales team. And I help people put together some of their teams. I can say, okay, I can set you up with headhunters. I can do whatever. But I also do make introductions for my 20 plus years in this space. I know a lot of the due diligence officers, a lot of the reps, a little bit of everybody that's out there. So I try to focus on and I try to push them and say, look, you don't necessarily jump out there and get 10 or 15 guys and let them sit there and hope you get selling agreements. You can start small and you can build a team with 1 or 2 people and then build it as you go and expand out. But I'm a big proponent in having your own sales group.
Okay, so I did not know that. I thought that you guys did play a role in the capital raise. Do you play a role at all with the broker dealers in helping with the selling agreements, more than just a consultative role?
More of a consultative role. Another way I guess you could look at it is in terms of all of the broker dealers that we have worked with for so many years. They know us, trust us, that our operations and our compliance and everything is going to be top notch. So they're very willing to work with us. They don't complain to us and say, oh, we didn't get our commission checks this week, or what happened here, or what happened there. They know that aspect is going to work. In terms of introductions, I do provide a lot of introductions just based on some of the people I know in the industry from being around here for so long. So I point them in the right direction. And I can also help them, like I said, set them up with national accounts or wholesalers or whatever it may be to get themselves going and up and running.
Okay, just a sidebar question, Jim, real quick. What's the toughest compliance issue that you deal with currently in the marketplace, if there is one? Can you just share an example?
Sure, I'd be glad to. The thing that's probably toughest to communicate is FINRA has a unique set of content standards for its advertising pieces. And if you're a solid marketing person, you've probably never considered those FINRA restrictions on the things you can and can't or must say in your advertising content. So a sponsor that has limited experience, maybe no experience, and they show up with this Slicko Delafonte pitch deck, and the first call we're going to have with them is, hey fellas, we need to spend some time talking about this, and we need to help you get it so that it's able to be distributed. Back to that impression, right? You're trying to build a distribution network. You show up with something that somebody can approve and won't allow their reps to distribute, you spend a whole lot of time doing nothing.
Yeah. Okay. And Michael, on a related note, do you provide consultative services to the wholesalers of the firms that you guys are on your platform to help them with not only compliance issues, but how to better sell? Do you provide those kinds of?
I don't necessarily work with them on that side. I would say that most of them have their own sales manager per se. There are several of the newer sponsors that we do have that I am on a weekly call with. And so it has to do with their selling process, everything they do have going on. And so I do hold hands, and we do talk about sales ideas. We do talk about different ways and different firms to get into. So I do that to a degree, usually, but they have a kind of a sales manager that's on there, and I'm kind of guiding that direction as well, as opposed for me being the sales manager in the process. Because like I said, we have 18 firms, and if I'm going to be kind of a salesperson for 18 different firms, then I'm going to be not doing a great job on all 18 of them.
Yeah, it puts you in a kind of a bad spot. Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to give away your secret sauce here, but just to the extent that you can share, Michael, are there 1 or 2 things that are that you've noticed through the years that are most helpful if you're looking for a selling agreement with an independent broker dealer? One or 2 things that you say, well, yes, we've noticed a trend. Is there anything like that?
All right. Well, yes. And I've done this multiple times with principals or owners of the company, and say, if you're going to get a selling agreement, you need to, the owners, the principals, the people that make the final decisions, need to be willing to give up their time, need to be willing to get on the road and what I call is do a road show. I'm going to drag that individual around to as many home offices, meeting with as many due diligence officers as possible, face to face, and get that message out. You can send emails all day long, people delete them. You can make phone calls and leave voicemails all day long, people delete them. Going and seeing and touching people, shaking their hands, being there and say, here's who I am, here's what our product is, I'm dedicated to this space and I'm going to be here. Also, so being there, being present. And then also some of the other ones, I know the space is expensive, But I have seen a lot of people that they might have the greatest product in the world, but they're trying to come into this market very cheaply, and the broker dealers will catch on to that. And they say, well, maybe you can't afford to be in this space, and so we're very reluctant to start providing capital to you because boom, one day you might be gone. So they want somebody that is going to be around, somebody that has the capital to continue on to be here and partner with the broker dealers for many years. And then it goes down to your product being a very honest individual and what's doing right by the investors.
I'd just like to add to that, that more and more being able to say WealthForge is our managing broker dealer is carrying some weight.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a fun part of this evolution in our business.
So it probably lays a little bit better groundwork for the new sponsor entering the space. It needs to go to the broker dealer. If the broker dealer probably has a little bit more of a comfort level knowing that they've attached to your platform and they feel like probably all the bases are already covered. I've still got to do my due diligence and all of that, but that's probably something that makes them feel comfortable from the outset.
Stacey, I think it's like this. I think it's like this. WealthForge is not being a managing broker dealer off the side of its desk. 90% of our revenue and 90% of our transaction volume is a result of our managing broker dealer activity. That's what we focus on. We've got an entire staff here. You said it earlier. You know, one of the advantages that WealthForge really has, I think, not only is its experience, but its scale, right? Yeah. Our ability to process a large number of transactions because of the systems and the background and the expertise of the people that are doing those functions, I think it's as good as it gets in the industry.
Yeah, I was really startled by the figure that you gave earlier, $1.4 billion raised. That's very significant. I had no idea. So you guys are doing something right. So you're a credit to our space as well. We all live in this space. We all need to do well. We all need to hold each other accountable. You've been around with some of the bad apples that have come through here, and boy, to get those black eyes, and then it takes years to overcome that. For the industry as a whole, it's not something that we need. We need to be done with those kinds of bad marks, significant marks. Now, there's a technology component, I think, to what you guys do. In fact, you're known as the technology-enabled managing broker dealer. How does WealthForge managing broker dealer use technology, and is it incorporated through Altigo, or is there something beyond that?
Yes.
Yes.
There is something beyond that. All right. Just tell us more about that.
All right. So let me put in a bit of a plug for Altigo, just because Altigo is a fantastic platform for being able to complete a subscription document. As you know, the alternative space requires a set of subdocs, a set of disclaimers, and a bunch of signatures and initials. And back in the day, a lot of FedEx envelopes, and Altigo eliminates all that. Altigo creates a perfect subscription document that is completed by the rep and executed by the investor and facilitates the entire process. And the thing that I really like about getting a subscription from Altigo is none of my guys have to touch it to process it through our back office system, get it ready for review, and even apply business logic to it. So some of the things we don't have to look at anymore because we know it's right. And so that's a piece of it. It's a feed from the other side of the house. You know, Altigo is WealthForge Technologies, and we get that transaction, we're ready to go. And so all of our work then can focus on exceptions, not on the mundane of key punch entry. That doesn't do anything for anybody. I mean, it's just overhead. And then after that, I mean, just about every process that we have in the BD is supported by some form of technology, whether that's homegrown through a back office workflow system, or whether that's a third-party bolt-in integrated piece of technology that we use for things like our registered rep administration that we have, or KYC or AML, or the things, you know, and we look for an opportunity to deploy technology because we don't intend to just do $1 billion for next year. We intend to do more than that. And in order to do that, you can't sort of arithmetically add to your staff. You need to be able to be very efficient. You need to be able to take the staff and the expertise they have and apply systems that allow you to do it over and over and over again reliably and accurately. And so that's our approach. We're looking for an opportunity to deploy technology in the home office.
Okay, Michael, I want you to chime in on this one because I know it's a big issue.
Yeah. So when we work with sponsors, we can, as WealthForge, we can provide investor processing. So we can process all the subscription documents in-house. And we could work with every sponsor and we can provide them with a dashboard. And so the dashboard will show them everything that's come in, what's in good order, what's not in good order, because we would prefer that that sponsor with their wholesalers will contact that rep and say, hey, we need a check mark here, or a signature here, or something fixed on this paperwork. So they go back and forth. But what this dashboard does is allows us in real time to upload documents and communicate with the different product sponsors in real time, so that it's not emails going back and forth and you don't know who sent the last email and where you are, but you can see it in a dashboard. You can see when investor material is approved and when it goes on to the next step and everything else. So that's a side of component of technology we provide to our sponsors. Also, just a little bit further down the road is, so okay, after that point, then you get a transfer agent involved. Okay, one thing that WealthForge can do is we have the ability to process these documents in-house, and we can send a data file to certain transfer agents, and that information can be ingested into their system, because they typically will have to key in everything, and a transfer agent is going to charge you for data entry. When we're working with some of the transfer agents, we can actually lower that initial subscription charge that they would charge you, because we're sending them data that is going directly into their system and they're not doing data entry. So that technology can save, and you could look at that. So if you have a multi-billion-dollar offering and your average ticket size is, let's call it $100,000, you're going to have a lot of individual transactions. So we can save you significant dollars on that. And then also a transfer agent's going to charge you for something that is not in good order. When we're sending a data file, it's going to be in good order because it's already been approved. So it's going to go into their system and charge you less, because the data entry fee that they're going to charge you is discounted because we're sending it into their system. And then also you're not going to get the NIGO charge on top of that. So that times multiple thousands of individual investments that go in there, WealthForge can save a product sponsor a ton of money.
And you work with all of the transfer agents?
No, we don't work with all of them. There's several that we do, and we're trying to build that relationship out so that it works with all of them.
Yeah, why would they not? Why would a transfer agent not want to work with WealthForge? I don't quite understand that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm not saying they don't. It's just a process of getting everybody set up.
Okay, just a lot. There's just a lot there. Okay, yep. I got you. Now, obviously, this is a differentiator, I guess you'd say, the tech side of things. So other managing broker dealers don't have the same degree of technology to help them, or most don't. Lay the groundwork for us there. Give us some perspective.
Michael, I'll give that one to you. I don't know.
You're letting me get it.
Yeah.
I would say that most of them do not have the tech side that we do. I can't say 100% for sure, but I have been in this space and I've used several of them when I was on the sponsor side. And at that time, they did not have any of the ability for a dashboard or any type of integration with any transfer agents that I was ever exposed to.
And these other firms, your competitors, is it just a handful? I mean, is it just 5 or 6 firms, or is it 20, 25 or 30 firms?
It's not 25 or 30. No, just in the independent broker dealer channel, there's probably 5 to 6, somewhere in that range. And there's more that I don't know about that are out there. I know about them, but they're very small players, and they will take on somebody that wants to do a $10 million equity raise, and they're going to raise direct through mom and pop and everybody else. And then sometimes they'll pop up in our space. But I would say the major players in the channel that we would all be familiar with, there's probably 5, somewhere in that range.
Certainly less than 10.
Yeah, less than 10.
So what are some of the other issues that differentiate your firm from other managing broker dealers, other than technology? And
technology, I would go back to team also. We have a dedicated team that's what we do. We're a managing broker dealer. We do have a small retail side, But I mean, we have 13 dedicated employees for our managing broker dealer business. And I think that that's probably one of the larger teams in the managing broker dealer space, especially a dedicated a force to the managing broker dealer side. So that, and then the fact of our hands-on, I mean, and we work with almost every single broker dealer out there. So one thing that we do, I mean, just small little things. So every time that a sponsor is going to sign a selling agreement, we can handle that process for them. So since we've already worked with all these broker dealers, we know who the correct person is that's going to receive the selling agreement. So we put it in a DocuSign package, we send it out to them, it gets signed instantly and populated by everybody that needs to, and it comes back. And then we keep a running list of everybody that they have a selling agreement with for them. We also will go a step further and say, okay, we have to do bad actor checks on all of these broker dealers and RAs when they're coming into the syndicate, the selling group. And then we do continuing bad actor checks on them into the future, so to make sure nothing else goes wrong. So it's just small little things that we do to provide extra little layers of service and protection, and to make their lives a lot easier, so that the sponsors can do what they do best. They can go out and they can buy alternative investment products, they can manage them, and they can sell them, and they can continue that process over and over for the benefit of their investors. We want to be their back office and provide all the services that they need behind the scenes, so they don't have to.
Makes sense, Jim.
Yeah, I would add a piece to that, right? If you go back to what makes a sponsor successful, the quality product with quality distribution, he's raising dollars and putting it in the account and then putting it to work for the investors. Wealth Forge is easy to do business with. We're not going to waste a sponsor's time doing things that really are not important and critical to the mission at hand. I mean, every step of the way. So from doing the operational diligence of the sponsor, the registered rep onboarding, so he actually has a sales force that he can get motivated, the transparency to the sponsors for all of our workflows that show how the investments are coming through and following and being approved. And then our flexibility sort of at the very end of our operation on we can close on their schedule. What do you need it to be that fits in your business case? And then we're efficient. And so if we're not wasting the sponsor's time and we're efficient with the syndicate, I think really what differentiates us is that we're easy to do business with, and we're not wasting people's time.
And you're in a good position because you've been in the space a while. You're not going anywhere. You're solid, so to speak. Hey, let me just add one quick thing for our audience real quick. No questions yet. I'm a little afraid that our audience may think that I'm going to say their name or something if somebody asks a question. I will not mention your name if you ask a question. I might say your first name. I won't even do that if it's not a common name. So don't be shy about asking questions of Michael and Jim, and we'll keep going here. So there's a number of different attributes that you think differentiate you from your competitors or peers, and you have a good track record with your current sponsors. You ever had a sponsor leave you?
Yes.
And go somewhere else? Tell us about that.
It was a mutually agreeable decision. It was one of those times when we were working with somebody and it just really wasn't a good fit for us or them. And so, they left, and that's okay, right? I mean, everybody has a place, and it just became apparent that sponsor just really, we were not a good fit.
I will tell you, it is very difficult for a sponsor to transition because they have to go get new selling agreements every time they do something like that. So the one that comes to my mind that did leave, yes, they had been a struggling sponsor and were not necessarily gaining a lot of traction. So getting new selling agreements was not an issue. Some of the salespeople that they had for them just didn't quite work out, and then they end up switching gears, and switching gears ended up switching them to another managing broker dealer. So it happens. It's not something that people don't just hop around, but once you're somewhere, especially once you start raising capital, to all of a sudden put on the brakes and say, I'm going to change, it's that's somebody has to think long and hard before they do something like that.
And I know you vet new sponsors who want to onboard on your platform. Has that vetting process ever led you to say, no, I'm not going to take you?
Yes.
Yes.
That's an easy one. I mean, everybody thinks that they have the greatest real estate product in the world. All they need is distribution. Okay, there's a lot to that. I mean, you might have a good product, but there's what differentiates you from somebody that has raised billions of dollars when you've only raised, let's call it maybe $50 million through friends and family. You might be really good at what you do, but what are your expectations? Like I said earlier, I said it's an expensive space. Not everybody can afford to all of a sudden jump into this space and start attending every conference. And every time you sign a selling agreement with a broker dealer, you're going to attend you're going to end up attending their national conference. So that costs money. Your wholesalers traveling cost money. So it's an expensive endeavor. So not everybody can come into this area and start raising dollars. You need a history, you need a track record. I would say we turn away almost as many as that we continue the conversation with.
Are you the lowest cost provider managing dealer?
I hope not. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't say that we're the lowest cost provider. I'm fair.
You're fair.
And I mean, and as you raise dollars, then yes, fees can come down. You have more negotiating power. But as term to lowest, no, I would say that we're probably priced perfectly based on the services, the excess services we provide with our managing broker dealer fee. And I mean, we're all in here for success because I mentioned earlier that we make money when they raise money. So we want the best for every one of them.
What role do you play with the sponsors who have this issue with getting selling agreements? It's difficult already as it is, and then the broker dealer wants you to go to their conference, attend their conference, and pay a big conference fee when you haven't raised the first dollar yet in their system. What role do you play in that tension?
Well, so I can give them experience based on who the broker dealer is and what their capacity is. I can even reach out to that due diligence officer and see what your thoughts are. Did you just sign it because you needed somebody to come to your conference? Probably not, but that happens. Is it something that you think your guys can get behind? Okay, if that's the case, then I know the due diligence officers. I know a lot of the reps at all of the firms. So, I mean, it could be as far as reaching out to some of the reps and going, hey, is this something you would sell? Here's a few of the high points on it. I mean, so just advising them on, I mean, if it's a broker dealer that I would say they're just trying to get some of your money to come to a conference, then I would tell them flat out, say, no, you don't need to do that. You can actually kind of negotiate. A lot of broker dealers will work with some of the newer sponsors. Say, look, hey, I'm a new sponsor. You haven't done anything. So they can work with you and give you a lower negotiated price. So you don't have to pay what the top dollar is. Maybe you don't speak, maybe you just attend, maybe you don't have a booth. So there's a lot of options that you can have in that side.
Okay, what is on the horizon for Wealth Forge? Before you answer that question, what has happened this year? What kind of growth have you experienced this year? And what are you looking at for 2024? What are you excited about for 2024?
So what have we added this year, Jim? 8 new sponsors?
Something like that. I don't have the exact count.
Yeah, so I think we've added roughly 8 or so sponsors this year. Yes, the market is off just based on inflation and interest rates and everything else, but adding to our mix and diversifying our mix and diversifying our capital flows is something that I'm very excited about. Being able to have multiple broker dealers, whether it's the broker dealers, sponsors, whether they're public offerings, private offerings, a little bit of everything on that side, DSTs. So having the diversification on that side and going forward, we are the managing broker dealer. We can provide full-blown managing broker dealer services, but some of the other things that we're able to do, there's a lot of sponsors that have entered the space, and I would say they're kind of like coming downstream. Some of large institutional sponsors that have been eyeing the independent broker dealer channel for a while, and now they're coming downstream into our space. Some of these sponsors, and I've talked to multiple of them, they need a managing broker dealer, or if they have some aspects of a broker dealer, but maybe they just need services. So we're definitely looking to add to our managing broker dealer where we do everything. But also we're looking at the sponsors that are coming downstream by just providing more of a subscription service to them. We can just monitor, we can just do rep supervision, or we can just do commission payouts or certain different aspects, so that it doesn't have to be the full-blown managing broker dealer services. It can be some sort of a subscription service with some of these large institutional players that have already raised $50 to $100 million or $1 billion in our space, not in our space, but institutionally.
So a lot of options for you to work with clients.
Yes, definitely.
And so is you onboarded 8 in this year. Is that typical, or was that a slowdown from previous years?
So I think it's accelerating. I'll answer that. I think it's accelerating. We have intentionally focused on our managing dealer services. What Michael just mentioned about applying those services and that scale to folks that are doing it as in-house, maybe on a subscription basis, applying our scale and our expertise to their back office functions. We think that makes sense, right? We'd like the opportunity to apply that to the folks that currently are doing that just because they're a sponsor and feel like they're obligated to do that.
With our tech capabilities, we could probably add another 10 sponsors on top of the 18 we have without really having to hire very many more people, if anybody. But so we have the ability to scale with the technology and everything that we have, which helps us. And then we're actually helping the sponsors scale because they don't have to have an operations, or they can have very limited amount of operations because we're doing all that inside for them.
Okay, and there's a lot of talk about RIAs, independent RIAs in our market today. Just a quick comment there, but my first question is, has any sponsor really cracked the code of reaching to that? I know that they say they do, but I'm very suspicious about that. So has anybody cracked the code on that? And I'm not talking about Blackstone, I'm not talking about Nuveen, I'm talking about the guys that play in our world.
They're cracking it, but they haven't cracked it in half. No. I remember coming into the space in 2002, and different sponsors, even at that time, were trying to put together a registered investment advisory wholesaling group on top of, so you would have two. You would have an RIA wholesaling group, and you would have a broker-dealer wholesaling group. Which one was successful? The broker-dealer one. You can put the same thing together now. Your RIA one might have 1 or 2 wholesalers, and your BD is going to have 15 or 20. So in terms of, it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I talk to sponsors all the time, and then they say, well, we're just going to go after RIAs. And I say, well, their selling agreement process might take just as long as a broker dealer. And you know what you might end up with? One RIA that might only give you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. And you can get a broker dealer, you sign up a broker dealer, and you get 500, 600, 1,000, whatever it may be underneath that broker dealer. So that 6 months that it took you to get that selling agreement, which one was more beneficial? I say go after both at the same time. The RIA world is a relationship world as well. So most wholesalers know a handful. So having a separate division, to me, in my mind, is very hard to do still. So I would say, yes, it's cracking and there's a lot of money coming out of it, but it's nowhere near to what the broker dealer is.
Okay, so, but you do think it will happen over time?
Over time, slowly.
Yeah, I think I agree with you about that, Michael, and Jim. So Jim, what's ahead for WealthForge?
Well, so I won't give the answer that I typed out there. I'm very ambitious and bullish on where WealthForge is headed. I mean, we've got a demonstrated successful method for delivering broker-dealer services, managing broker-dealer services in the alternative space. We recently expanded our license, I guess that was a year and a half ago now, so that we could include all of the non-traded 40 Act funds. And so basically the way I describe that is anything that requires a subscription document, WealthForge is licensed to take care of. What I see happening is as very large sponsors from the institutional world come down market, we're sitting here with a demonstrated practice, a solid reputation, something that we can show to that new sponsor coming to the space that already has a demonstrated track record with quality product. we can show them what our differentiated service looks like, and we can just take the hassle off the table for addressing this piece of the market. So that's what I say. I'd like to continue to refine, how we deliver our services to a new cast of characters that are entering the market.
So Michael, you're meeting with a new sponsor tomorrow, and I'm making this up. What's the main message that you have for the new product sponsor tomorrow?
Well, first off, it's also asking them questions and figuring out what they are and what they're looking for. So I want to set expectations, and I want them to know all of our capabilities, whether it's just the operations side or the compliance side or whatever it may be. But I mean, it's more of a team approach, a hands-on approach. I want to figure out what they're looking for and which way I can guide them. I mean, do you need help with wholesalers? Do you need help with different broker dealers out there in terms of introductions? Do you need help? I mean, a lot of people need help in just putting their whole package together. Our due diligence team has reviewed almost 1,500 different offerings. So we can make sure that everything is going in yours is what it's supposed to do. So we're going to hold your hand. We're going to drive you in the right direction, and we're going to give you phenomenal service, and we're going to partner with you for a long time. That's typically what I go with the message.
So you will work with sponsors on the front end before they've even.
Correct. I a lot of times would rather work with them in the whole process of them putting together their PPM, everything else. I mean, I will go as far as I will tell them what a budget is and what a timeline is. So it's like, what does it cost to get into this space? And so I've got a budget on an Excel spreadsheet that says, okay, here's what it's going to cost you if you add 1 wholesaler, 3 wholesalers, whatever, internals, externals. Here's what their travel and expense is going to cost. Here's what a selling agreement is going to cost. Here's what your first year in the market's going to cost. Here's what your second year in the market's going to cost. But also keep in mind that your capital raise should be ramping up at the same time. So I put together all of that for them. I can pretty much tell them everybody and everything that they need to associate with, all the way from AI Insight to third-party due diligence to transfer agents, a little bit of everything. I can connect them with securities attorneys. So I could even get involved with some of them that are like, I don't have a securities attorney, or the one that I'm currently working with is not necessarily somebody that's in your space. And so then I'll recommend a handful of them in our space, because it goes back to the broker dealers and due diligence guys want to see something that is familiar with them, somebody that they know that's going to write a quality PPM or offering documents for them. So I will walk them through the whole entire process. I mean, I can bring a broker dealer on, and it might be 3 to 6 months before they ever go live, just for the fact of everything that we have to do on the setup process. Then they go live, and then it's the selling agreement process. And then I'm working with them for another 6 months on that until they get up and going. And then it still continues even a year down the road.
Jim, parting thoughts from you.
I just want to say thank you for hosting us. This has been a lot of fun for me. I don't do this often. I appreciate your candor and the opportunity to talk a little bit about WealthForge.
Yeah, we don't let Jim out.
The thing about it is, if I saw you guys at an industry conference, we would have this exact conversation. If we weren't, being interrupted by 25 other people, we would have the same conversation. Why not have this conversation so that others can learn from it? So that's all we're doing. So we just have to have honest, frank, not trying to show off or be some sort of celebrity or TikTok influencer or anything like that. Just have a conversation. You guys taught me things today that I've thought about for 15 years and didn't know the answer to. So I really appreciate you joining us, and I look forward to working with you more. We look forward to helping you guys however we can. But thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And thanks to Heather Acey, who's just phenomenal for coordinating this for us as well. I know most of the people who are on this webinar know Heather or know of Heather, and she's just phenomenal. So thank you, Heather, very much for your participation in this as well. And that's going to wrap things up. Let me just remind everyone that registration for our summit next year is open now to broker dealers and advisors. If you're a product sponsor, there are a number of ways that you can participate in the event. We're expecting about 400 people to attend next year. Could be more. We've got the facility for it, which we've not had in the past. And so we're looking forward to it next year. We're looking forward to continuing to educate advisors about alts and helping product sponsors and good folks like our friends at Wealth Forge, help them to expand the opportunities within that alt space. So again, thanks for joining us. There's a survey at the end here that we would appreciate your candid feedback on, and we hope everyone has a great day. Thank you, Michael. Jim.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacey.